me dicen yo haciéndolo con flow, es low, poniéndolos a moverlo. Juraban que mi disco no pegaba, pensaban que del sexto no pasaba. La caca que tiraron se la tragan completa, la neta que los hice de agua. Para nada que me afectan, por más que lo intentan. Pinche bola de puñetas, me pelan la riata. Con directas o indirectas me retan, inventas, ninguno me opaca. Yo sé que le sacan meterse pa' santa, porque es tierra de cabrones, de tortura y levantones, de pelones y matones. Soy quien soy, por eso estoy donde estoy, por eso voy pa' donde voy, sin que nos puedan parar. Fácil llegar, difícil permanecer, ya he visto muchos intentarlo más de una vez. Se confunden, se ponen de pechito a que los tumbe, por eso es que se arriban a la lumbre. No entienden por qué me dicen fuertes, actuales y vigentes en el gusto de la gente. Con este ya son 7, más que un delincuente, un hombre de negocios. Tequila a los jefes, bien recio con mis socios. Pa' arriba, desde que salimos. Quisieron bajarnos, pero aquí nos mantuvimos. Quisieron comprarnos, pero no nos vendimos. Quisieron robarnos, pero nos defendimos. Pa'l Billboard, como independientes. Pa' cualquier cantante, solito hace billetes. Pa' todos los ojetes que decían que era mi fin, demostrado por el babo de donde salen los hits. Y ahora vienes llorando cuando les advertí que aquí no estamos jugando, que esto es muy serio pa' mí. Y se fueron de aquí que porque ya iba pa' abajo. Pobrecitos pendejos ya ni tienen trabajo. Soy quien soy, por eso estoy donde estoy, por eso voy pa' donde voy, sin que nos puedan parar. Fácil llegar, difícil permanecer, ya he visto muchos intentarlo más de una vez. Se confunden, se ponen de pechito a que los tumbe, por eso es que se arriman a la lumbre. No saben por qué me dicen Y para el cierre de la canción, mención con el corazón, pa'l Piquín y Don Aarón, pa' mi carnalito el del callejón, pendientes con otro flow, el pelón y el cholo grande, si ya se la saben, pa' luego es tarde, a toda madre un desmadre y a la orden pa'l desorden, compadre.
They're Canada's next hot rock band. Franklin Steelers, with new music just released. Franklin Steelers. Download it now at cdbaby.com or iTunes. Or get more info and download music at franklinsteelers.com.
Hey, Matt Ivy here with Adamus. We're at CCW 2015 in New York. Very exciting news from Adamus, as always. We always got something new coming on. We are shipping the new Shogun Studio, and I'm going to give you a quick overview of the Adamus workflow and the way we've got it set up here to do that demonstration. So what we have is our venerable Shogun on camera, monitor, recorder, player. And what we're doing is we got simulated a multi-camera shoot, so we got 2 cameras. We've got Shogun on each one of them so that we can have a great monitor for the operator with all the tools that go along with that, but also you get to do an ISO record at your source. So that's cool on both of these. And we're taking that output, HDSDI. Oh, and by the way, we're using a Connect series to convert an HDMI camera over to HDSDI so that it can be used in the more professional world of a live event. So we take those HDSDI feeds, those are going into our nice big switcher here, and Then we're taking the output from the switcher, and that's going into our Shogun Studio rack. So there's some really exciting stuff that's going on for being able to use the Adamus workflow. Remember, we record directly to, as a reminder, we record directly to a SSD or a spinning disk drive, depending on what format you're using. So that's important. The same caddy is used in all the Adamus products, including the Shogun Studio. So let's give a little background on what the Shogun Studio is going to be able to do for people. First of all, it's a 3RU rack mount device, and it has 2 Shogun technology engines built into it. That gives us 2 completely separate channels, if you will. So it's a dual channel device. It's 4K HD, 2 nice, the 7-inch IPS monitor, 1920 by 1200 size, so you get an awesome HD resolution screen in each channel, all built into this rack mount kit. There is a couple of recording modes that are new on here. One is called continuous record. So now that I've got these 2 channels and they are separated, and I'll go over the rear panel here in just a minute. In the continuous record mode, what it does is it'll record on channel 1, and it can be the format that's coming in, of course, and it'll fill up that drive, and when that drive is filled up, it will automatically switch over with a buffer overlap onto the second drive and record onto it and fill it up. And that means while that one's recording, you can put another drive in here. So hence the continuous record. There's also another recording mode in here that's called dual record, and with a flick of the record button here, you can tell both channels to start recording at the same time. So those are unique into the Shogun Studio rack mount device. So same great features that are into the Shogun Atom OS operating system. We've got our waveform monitor and vector scope is built in. And did I say the price yet? Because I probably will say it a couple times. It's $34.95. And at $34.95, you can hardly buy a 4K player for that much and get the vector scope and the waveform monitor all built in. So think of the Adamus products once again, overburdening the feature set that's in the product with all these great features and putting them into a nice package that's easy to use. So we have our same operating tools, the monitor assist. You can also, as you're recording, you can pick your favorite parts of the clip that can be used then in the edit process. And we work with lookup tables. So all those features that are built into the Shogun technology operating system are built into here, including our extensive audio. So that now, as we're talking about this, I've got a couple of analog audio tracks that are coming in here. You can see those bouncing up and down as you're getting the shot in there, I hope. So that I'm going to move over now. This is the front part of the product. I have another one sitting on top here, same product, 3RU tall, and this is the rear panel side of that. So it's a fully featured media deck, if you will. It's got HDSDI input and an output, so it's got a loop through, HDMI in and out, analog audio in and out, and that can drive 48 volt phantom microphone powered microphones. And then we're getting, so these are 2 side by each channel, so the same input and output connections are on both sides, okay? And so the other interesting part that we've been added in is we've got longitudinal time code in and out so that we can do time of day time code, which I have going on here from LTC. And you can loop that through to all of them so that they all have the same time code, so when you do your recording of your event, they all have the same time code on the file information. We also do gen lock. 2 of these channels that I'm using here that are going back into the switcher are looping back playback material, and they are gen lock so that they can go into the switcher. So we've got that going for us. And the other part that's new inside the Shogun Studio is external control. This is the first time Adamus has added external control to the products, thereby putting itself into this infrastructure that's very popular with live events, colleges, universities, house of worship, broadcast, of course, trucks. This will cut across many markets.
You know what this is, right? Yeah.
Tonight, Canby. Thank you all so much for coming out here. It's a beautiful night. We're gonna slow down here a bit here.
Try to see why something good can happen.
By the way, I just found this out like 45 minutes ago. Happy birthday, Devin. For the man of the night. Oh, yeah. All right, man, let's get back to some rockin' here. One of the and the sun shines on the bay. We're holding hands, I say, oh, 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 Thank you. Oh, yeah. Hey, by the way, man, rhythm section here. Mr. Jay Ryan on the bass. Mr. Jason Feldman on the back, on the drums there. I'm Kevin. Hello. And Mr. Mike Johnson on the keyboards. Got something for you. shine. The sun's all I need. Take it away out of the shadow. Well, what more I say? Oh, anytime, anytime at all, anytime. Oh yeah, Mr. Mike Johnson. Hey, Darren and Jamie, friends with Mike Johnson. Where are you guys? This is for you guys right here, all right? All right.
You're supposed to come up here and make out, like a 20-year anniversary or something.
He promised me you guys would stay right in the middle and make out. Throughout the whole song. Deal. I'll promise that.
Give me about 15 more seconds.
You've been awkward. Like,
I guess we only got 10 minutes in the set. We've been getting home already.
It's getting cold. My guitar's.
The sensitive side of Mike Johnson here.
I may or may not be into it.
Keep on. Oh, you guys want to hear that? Oh, let's do it. No. Okay. It's for you guys. Yeah. It's coming there. It's with you nights I do remember in my youth. And I do recall those were the best times. It's to go to war. In a cave in a building down, burning love that once in a lifetime. Mama singing by the well train. Took me home with days on the moonlight. Those summer nights I you so much, you guys, man. You guys are awesome. Amazing. All right, we're going to get back to our dedication song here. This is Mike Johnson, take it away. This is for you guys over there.
We have entertainment for 20 years.
Thank you. You guys are awesome. I love you guys, by the way. Yeah. Always an amazing experience here. Thanks for having us. Everything. She loves the move, she loves the groove, she loves the normal things. All night, all every night, hold you up to all times. Baby, tight. She said, any way you want it, that's the way you need it. Any way you want it, what good love is. Ooh, then we touch, then we say all the loving things. Ooh, all night, all every night, to hold tight. Ooh, baby, hold tight. Any way you want it, that's the way you need it. Any way you want it. You guys got your letters? Where's your letters? See the letters in there. All right, this is for the lighter people.
Next to the lighter, who's running the show? What's your rock? Blue spot.
Sending home my love along the wire. You say that the road ain't no place to start. Right down the line between you and me, and all the music that he owns whispers. Oh, girl, you say I'm forever yours. Faithfully. Soon as the light under the big top world, we only the cross is alive. Through space and time, always another soul. Only we're higher, lost without you. Beat upon it, easier to love well. Two strangers on the phone, love again. I give the joy for rediscovering. Oh, girl, you say I'm forever yours. Thank you for the letters. Woo! Oh yeah! Let's see some bodies moving out there. Come on. Woo! Show me how you guys do it. You make me weak. I wanna die just when you say goodbye. I wish I had all you guys for one of our shows here. Thank you so much. Again, man, thank you for Earth 6, man. Amazing bands. You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much for coming out. We're going to leave you with this, all right? You guys ready? I don't know. You guys ready? Just small town girl in a lonely world. She took the midnight train going anywhere. Just to see her born and raised in South Detroit. He took the midnight train going anywhere. Singer in a smoking room, there's no one to take perfume. For a smile that can tell the night, it goes on and on and on and on. Train us way down, looking down the boulevard and shadows searching in the night. Streetlights, people, even this final shot hiding Thank you so much.
Their music rocked a generation.
I think people were living in the moment. It was a great time. It was an exciting time.
It was just magic.
I wanna rock! From one strip, they stormed the planet.
The world is your oyster.
These guys worked really hard. They got really famous. They got lots of money.
All of a sudden, you're 21 years old. You got $1 million.
Playing power chords of debauchery and decadence.
Every excess you could possibly think of was not only available, but encouraged and accepted.
We kept the condom machine on the bus.
Girls either wanted to them or guys wanted to be like them.
They partied like rock stars.
Every time you'd see Slash, he had his top hat pulled down and he was walking with a bottle of Jack.
Until the music stopped.
I was actually one of the first people that got the phone call. Oh, Nicky's in the hospital and he died. And I'm like, what?
And we felt we could do anything and it was going to last forever.
The untold story of rock's greatest joyride in their own words.
Seeing a show that will mesmerize you, you're just going to go, wow. Once it gets into your blood, there's no other music like it.
When metal ruled the world.
In a world where only power ballads sold,
short hair was a crime.
Our girls were taken over and turned into
groupies.
And so began a time of pure
debauchery, where only the guitar gods and the Sunset Strip was the name of the game.
When metal ruled the world.
Metal started on Sunset Boulevard.
It was the Reaganomic years. There was excess everything. Excess money, excess drugs, excess booze, excess women.
What happened here is in the early 80s, there was kind of an organic switch over from punk rock to metal.
I think people were ready for something different, and I think metal was just exciting. It was primitive. The shows were exciting.
Now it's metal's turn to rule the strip.
On a typical day on the Sunset Strip, you would see nothing except trash all over the street. A typical night on the Sunset Strip was a totally different story.
Welcome to the jungle. We got fun and games.
In the nighttime, once the sun went down, all the crazy rockers came out, all the crazy chicks came out. It was a pretty wild scene.
You couldn't walk on the sidewalk. There were so many people trying to get into the clubs that out in the street, it was a party.
The first time we arrived in LA, I thought I had reached the friggin' promised land. Not only that, but the good-looking chicks were into the metal bands, too. Bonus, I really thought we had arrived.
It was just a place to be at the time.
We want to party. We live in LA. We live in Babylon.
The debauchery and the seedier side of rock that can be summed up by two words: Sunset Strip. Everybody knew about the Sunset Strip. You're going to grow up reading, back then Circus Magazine, Cream Magazine, and all they would do is bombard you with and Spotted Today on the Sunset Strip and playing here on the Strip.
It was a time where a lot of people were coming to Los Angeles to make it. They were coming out here to be musicians.
I was in about 5 bands at the same time all the time. One fed me, the other one I could stay at somebody's house, the third one gave me enough money for drumsticks, and the latter two because they were better than the other ones. And one of those bands happened to be Quiet Riot.
I was working as a delivery driver for a liquor company. Actually, the whole band worked at Gallo Wine. We were all just playing music at night, driving during the day.
Everybody struggled. Nobody had any money. Me, Tommy, and Nicky lived in a 2-bedroom apartment.
At that point, it was still really exciting. Nobody knew where it was going. It was sort of an adventure.
All of the clubs were kind of centralized right there on the Strip.
You could hear bands every single night.
There were so many bands in Los Angeles.
There was Rap,
Quiet Riot,
Wasp, Dawkins,
Motley Crue.
They were all local bands that hadn't quite hit yet. Before they blew up, they cut their teeth in those clubs.
When we got together, we played places like the Troubadour, and we were lucky if we made $200.
Those early Quiet Riot shows, the only people there were the chicks who were the girls of the guys in the band and their friends. I mean, that's it. That's how it starts.
It was just a matter of being able to get in and play. And you could play every night of the week in Hollywood then if you wanted to.
We were like nobodies. Our sound back in the early days was really raw. Just guitar with almost like no effects. It was just like, you know, hey, yeah, whoa, go. And anything with one syllable worked. We were just these lowly, four no-name dudes that were just trying to make a big name for ourselves on the Strip. We just wanted to headline a weekend at the Whiskey A Go-Go.
The Whiskey was a legendary club because it's where the Doors played, and the go-go dancers, the Cages. This was like legendary Los Angeles rock and roll.
When you walk into the Whiskey A Go-Go, you are immediately greeted with this scent of puke and piss.
All the bands started playing at the Whiskey, and it became like the focus point for metal in Los Angeles and in the Sunset Strip area.
There's 1,000 bands out there, and you really had to set yourself apart from everybody else.
Wasp was being very theatrical in their performance. Wasp was throwing raw meat. You don't want to be anywhere near the front because you were going to get splattered with raw meat, and there was blood on it, and it was just disgusting. It was really disgusting.
When Rat played the Whiskey, they threw these like toy store rubber rat things out into the audience, and people were going, especially because they're all stoned and loaded.
I've actually heard it was real rats, which is ridiculous. It wasn't like Wasp, who was actually taking meat and throwing at people. So.
Motley Crue got much more theatrical than everybody else did.
Nicky used lighter fluid or something.
We put that stuff on Nicky's boots, and we would have these candelabras with the skulls and the flames, and I would take the sword very dramatically.
Hit him in the legs, and he'd go up in flames.
And people never saw that in clubs before. It just got the attention of fans, and then people wanted to come see what we were doing.
They started getting really popular on the Strip.
And everybody wanted to be around Motley. Everybody did.
Anytime we played the Whiskey, I would just invite everybody who wanted to go back to our apartment right back with us.
The apartment that Motley Crue had was literally right up the street from the Whiskey.
We'd be like the Pied Pipers, and there'd be a couple hundred people following us into this two-bedroom apartment, and it was crazy.
Motley's apartment would be compared to, look at a floor in a club where everybody's smoking and drinking and putting their cigarettes out on the floor. That was the living room. That was a clean room, too, by the way.
It was nothing but booze bottles everywhere. Chicks everywhere. You had situations, a lot of sexual situations that went on in and around that camp.
It was like a revolving bedrooms. Girls would come in and we'd make them leave out the back window.
One time, and I walked into Vince's room, and he had one girl giving him a from this side and one girl giving him a from this side.
Well, they used to strap these girls on this, like, wheel, and one time I guess they gave this girl a enema, and she all over the place. So they almost had to burn the house down. It was just, it was disgusting. They probably stopped that by now.
In the early days of that wave of LA rock, nobody was getting signed.
To get a record deal back then was almost impossible.
In Quiet Riot's situation, we were turned down by just about every label at least twice, some of them 3 times.
They couldn't get a record deal no matter what. They're working it, working it, working it, working their butts off.
We were playing at a club in the Valley. There was a producer who thought the songs were really good, and he wanted to take us into the studio to do some demos, which we did. Those demos then were heard by Epic/CBS. And then once we got signed, we cut the Mental Health record on available time. It was released. Nobody expected it to do well. For the first 6 or 7 months, it was a real slow grind.
I remember when that band was starting to break with Come On Feel the Noise. It was just a huge song.
This was November 15th of '83. That's when we found out that the next week, Mental Health was going to be #1 on the Billboard charts. Once that happened, bands started getting signed out of LA left and right. It didn't matter. If you played rock, if your drummer had 2 bass drums, you got signed. If you had people that were singing like they were singing through helium, you got signed. And it was just insanity from that point on.
Coming up, metal puts the Strip back in Sunset.
I remember one night there was some guy in a band and some girl doing it in the dumpster. So, you know, you could do it anywhere.
Next on When Metal Ruled the World.
The local music of LA became the most popular genre in the 80s. Quiet Riot and Motley Crue blew everything up.
What happened with Metal Health is that was the album that really broke the market for a lot of these bands, where people saw that metal could be a major commercial force.
Quiet Riot instantly went to #1 with Come On Feel the Noise. And we released Shout the Devil.
Shout at the Devil became the anthemic record and brought Motley Crue to a much wider audience.
With the success of Motley and Quiet Riot, everybody was kind of scrambling to fit the mold.
People were interested in guitar solos and musical prowess and the whole culture that was attached to it. The look, loud music, big hair, all wrapped in one big nice package, you know. It was very appealing.
Everybody thought that LA was the place to go to sign a band. So every single company came and they signed everybody.
You would come to LA, you would play little clubs, and then you'd play the Strip. And then the A&R guys would go see whoever the biggest drawing band was.
And so if you're in a band in the Midwest somewhere and you can't go anywhere else, it's like, let's pack up and let's go to LA. That's what happened to Poison.
I knew that there was an awesome metal scene in LA. We knew we had to go to LA if we wanted to try to break big. When Poison first got to LA, we were gypsy kind of glam.
Poison's sound was pop metal, very rhymey.
Did it to me.